Feeling trapped is not proof that your life is impossible to change. It is proof that your life has no leverage. The job feels like the cage. The family doubt feels like the cage. The money pressure, the dead environment, the invisible effort, all of it feels like the cage. But the real trap is having no clean move. You cannot leave because your money is weak. You cannot negotiate because your proof is invisible. You cannot focus because your energy is broken. You cannot act because part of you is still waiting for someone to understand first. That is how a man turns helplessness into identity. But the opposite mistake is pretending. Freedom means burning everything down in one emotional decision. That is not power. That is panic. A strategist does not worship escape. He names the lock. Then he builds the lever that moves the most doors first. You can see this pattern in every trapped man who later became dangerous. Steve Jobs did not regain power by begging Apple to understand him. He built NXT. He helped build Pixar. He created proof outside the kingdom that rejected him. NVIDIA did not survive by trying to fix every weakness at once. Jensen Huang focused the company around one decisive product, the RIVIA 128. That product became the proof that the company still had a future. The pattern is simple. Pressure does not reward emotion. Pressure rewards the man who finds the lever. That is why most men stay trapped far longer than they should. Not because they are stupid, not because they have no ambition, not because life is easy for everyone else and cruel only to them. They stay trapped because they misread the cage. They fight the wrong lock. They attack the symptom that hurts the most instead of the mechanism that controls the most. A man says, "I am trapped because of my job," but the job may not be the real trap. The real trap may be that he has no savings, no marketable skill, and no visible proof that someone else should pay him more. A man says, "I am trapped because my family does not believe in me," but the family may not be the real trap. The real trap may be that he still needs their belief before he can act. A man says, "I am trapped because society ignores me," but society may not be the real trap. The colder truth may be that society has not seen enough evidence to treat him as important. This is the question most trapped men never ask. What kind of trap are you actually in? Because if you misdiagnose the cage, every solution becomes another prison. If your body is the trap, chasing purpose will exhaust you. If money is the trap, reading philosophy will not create options. If your environment is the trap, arguing with small minds will only make you more visible to people who benefit from your weakness. If validation is the trap, every explanation will feel mature, but secretly function like permission-seeking. If identity is the trap, you will protect the image of being talented while avoiding the one thing that could prove whether that talent is real. That is why vague suffering is dangerous. "I feel trapped" is not a diagnosis. It is a fog. A strategist does not respect fog. He cuts through it. Machiavelli understood this because he did not write about human beings as they pretend to be. He wrote about human beings as they act when status, fear, reputation, advantage, and survival are involved. In The Prince, he wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are." That sentence is brutal because it kills one of the most comforting lies ambitious men carry. The lie is this: my potential should be enough. No, it is not enough. The world does not interact with your private greatness. It interacts with your visible proof. It does not reward the man you think you could become. It responds to the man your behavior, results, reputation, and evidence have already revealed. This is why hidden ambition becomes so painful. You know what you feel inside, you know the hunger, you know the ideas, You know the nights you spent thinking about a different life. You know the pressure you carry when nobody is watching. But the world cannot see that. Your employer sees output. Your family sees history. Your friends see patterns. The market sees proof. Society sees signals. And if your proof is invisible, your ambition is treated like noise. That is the first wound, not failure. Invisibility. A man can survive failure if failure gives him information. But invisibility is different. Invisibility makes him doubt whether his effort is real. It makes him explain too much. It makes him announce plans before he has earned evidence. It makes him look for belief from people who have no reason, no incentive, and sometimes no ability to understand the path he is taking. And when he does not receive that belief, he calls it betrayal. Sometimes it is betrayal. Sometimes people close to you cannot imagine your rise because your rise would force them to reconsider their own choices. Sometimes they mock ambition because ambition threatens the comfort of the room. Sometimes they prefer the old version of you because that version was easier to place beneath them. But sometimes the truth is colder. You are not underestimated yet. You are unproven. That line hurts because it removes the luxury of resentment. It gives you back responsibility. It says the solution is not to wait until they understand. The solution is to build something so visible that misunderstanding becomes irrelevant. Before this becomes another idea you agree with and forget, write the word leverage in the comments. Not as decoration, as a public signal to yourself that you are done confusing emotional pressure with strategic movement. Because this is why feeling trapped is dangerous. Not because discomfort destroys a man immediately, but because comfort with captivity slowly teaches him to lower his own price. First he says, "I am just tired." Then he says, "I need more time." Then he says, "Maybe this is realistic." Then he says, "Maybe I wanted too much." Then one day, he looks at himself and realizes the cage no longer feels like a cage. It feels like identity. That is the real cost. You do not only lose money, you lose negotiation power. You lose physical energy. You lose social confidence. You lose the ability to enter higher status rooms without feeling like an outsider. You lose the habit of keeping promises to yourself. You lose the aggressive clarity that once made you believe a different life was possible. And eventually, you become the most dangerous kind of man. A man with explanations instead of evidence. He can explain why he has not moved. He can explain why the timing was bad. He can explain why his family did not support him. He can explain why the market is unfair. He can explain why the job drained him. He can explain why he had no mentor, no money, no network, no room, no peace, no luck. And some of those explanations may be true. But truth without movement becomes a decorated prison. A strategist does not deny pressure. He studies it. He does not pretend the game is fair. He asks where leverage can still be built inside an unfair game. Look at Steve Jobs. In 1985, Jobs was forced out of Apple, the company he co-founded. Do not turn that into a motivational poster. Understand what it actually was. Public humiliation. Status loss. Rejection from the very kingdom he helped create. The man did not just lose a position, he lost standing inside his own story. Most men would have made that wound their identity. They would have spent years explaining how unfair it was. They would have tried to make the old kingdom admit its mistake before building anything new. They would have confused vindication with progress. Jobs did something colder. He built outside the wall. He started next. He helped build Pixar. Years later, in his Stanford commencement address, he said, "Getting fired from Apple turned out to be one of the best things that could have happened to him because it pushed him back into the lightness of being a beginner again." pressure revealed the lever. The pressure was exile from his own company. The action was not begging. The action was building new proof. The first proof was Next and Pixar. The power lesson is simple. When the old kingdom rejects you, do not worship the gate. Build assets outside the wall. That is leverage. Now look at Jensen Huang and NVIDIA. In the early years, NVIDIA nearly failed. The company was under severe pressure. It did not have endless room for beautiful theories or motivational speeches. Survival demanded focus. The Riva 128 chip became the product that put NVIDIA on the map and helped save the company. Huang later said the Riva 128 shocked the young 3D market and saved NVIDIA. Again, pressure revealed the lever. The pressure was possible collapse. The action was focus. The first proof was one decisive product. The power lesson is this. When you have no room left, you do not fix everything. You choose the lever that can move the entire situation. That is the rule most trapped men violate. They try to repair their entire life at once. They want better money, better body, better confidence, better friends, better family respect, better purpose, better discipline, better focus, better status, better future, all at the same time. So the mind looks at the mountain and chooses numbness. That numbness is not always laziness. Sometimes it is an overloaded system refusing to move because the command is too vague. When the order is fix your life, the body does not know where to begin. When the order is become successful, the brain drowns in abstraction. When the order is escape, the nervous system reaches for panic, fantasy, or distraction. That is why the first law is not inspiration. The first law is diagnosis. You are not trapped because every door is locked. You are trapped because you do not know which lock controls the most doors. There are 5 main traps that create life deadlock. The first is the energy trap. This is not about wellness. This is about command. Your sleep is broken. Your body is weak. Your attention is scattered. Your nervous system is exhausted. Your mornings start without ownership. Your evenings disappear into recovery, distraction, and silent shame. Then you wonder why every decision feels impossible. A tired man does not see strategy. He sees threat. He hears advice and feels attacked. He sees opportunity and feels overwhelmed. He faces a hard conversation and delays it. He opens a course and loses focus. He tries to build after work, but his body has already spent the day surviving. This is why energy is not a small issue. Energy is the base layer of power. Without energy, discipline becomes negotiation. Without sleep, ambition becomes mood-dependent. Without physical command, the mind becomes easier to govern by fear, impulse, comfort, and other people's reactions. The CDC says adults need at least 7 hours of sleep each day. Physical activity guidelines also emphasize that some activity is better than none. That matters because many men want a heroic escape while ignoring the machine that must execute it. They want purpose while their body is collapsing. They want confidence while their nervous system is in debt. They want freedom while they cannot control their own evening. The energy trap is brutal because it hides behind ordinary life. It does not look dramatic. It looks like staying up too late. It looks like skipping training. It looks like eating whatever is convenient. It looks like starting the morning in reaction. It looks like letting the phone enter your mind before your own strategy does. But over time, the result is not ordinary. The result is a man who has ambition but no command. The second trap is the money trap. If you have no savings, no marketable skill, and no alternative income path, your opinions are expensive, but your choices are cheap. You may hate the job. You may resent the manager. You may know you are worth more. You may feel insulted by the way people speak to you. But hatred without financial optionality is just noise. Money is not luxury here. Money is distance from coercion. Money lets you say no. Money gives you time to think. Money gives your mind room to plan instead of panic. Money turns desperation into negotiation. Money turns an insult into a decision instead of an identity wound. A broke man may still have dignity, but he has fewer moves. And power is moves. If you cannot leave, you are easier to control. If you cannot wait, you are easier to underpay. If you cannot absorb a financial shock, you are easier to frighten. If one paycheck controls your entire emotional state, then your freedom is theoretical. This does not mean worship money. It means stop pretending money is not part of power. A man with no financial buffer is often not choosing patience. He is being forced into patience. He is not choosing loyalty. He is trapped by dependency. He is not being humble. He is negotiating from weakness. The third trap is the environment trap. Some rooms do not attack your ambition directly. They simply normalize your weakness. They laugh at discipline. They mock improvement. They treat your goals like arrogance. They reward the old version of you because that version is easier to understand. They call your growth changing because they benefited from your stagnation. They make seriousness feel like betrayal. They make focus feel like ego. They make your future compete with their comfort. And if you stay there too long, you begin negotiating with their expectations. You stop speaking with force because force makes them uncomfortable. You hide your effort because effort makes them question themselves. You reduce your standards because high standards create distance. You return to old habits because old habits preserve belonging. This is how environments trap men without chains. They do not need to destroy your ambition. They only need to make your ambition socially expensive. A weak room does not always say, "Do not rise." Sometimes it says, "Who do you think you are?" And if you still need approval from that room, the question works like a leash. The fourth trap is the validation trap. This is the hidden one. You say you want freedom. You say you are independent. You say you no longer care what people think. But before you move, part of you still wants someone to understand. Your family, your friends, your partner, the people who doubt you, the people who never built what you are trying to build. Every explanation feels mature, but sometimes explanation is disguised permission-seeking. You tell yourself you are communicating, but beneath the communication is a transaction. If I explain this clearly enough, maybe they will believe in me. If they believe in me, I will finally feel safe enough to act. That is not freedom. That is emotional governance. A man who cannot move until he is understood is not free. He is ruled by the audience inside his head. And the most humiliating part is this. Often the people you are trying to convince do not even control the path. They are not the market. They are not the client. They are not the buyer. They are not the gatekeeper. They are not the future version of you who must live with the consequences. But you still give them veto power, not because they earned it, because you are still emotionally waiting for permission. The fifth trap is the identity trap. This is where talented men die slowly. They protect the idea that they are gifted by avoiding situations where their gift can be tested. They would rather remain full of potential than become a beginner in public. They would rather study quietly forever than publish something imperfect. They would rather talk about the plan than let the market judge the result. They would rather preserve the fantasy of being exceptional than collect the evidence that might prove they are still average. Because beginner status threatens the ego. So they plan. They study. They consume. They fantasize. They refine the vision. They prepare endlessly. They call it strategy, but often it is fear wearing intelligent clothing. The identity trap is not a lack of ambition. It is ambition protecting itself from reality. The man wants to believe he is capable, but proof requires exposure. Exposure invites judgment. Judgment may reveal weakness, and weakness would threaten the identity he has been using to survive, so he stays hidden. And without proof, even he stops believing himself. That is the cruelest part. At first, hidden potential feels powerful. It gives you a private kingdom. You can tell yourself, "They do not know what I am capable of." But after enough years, the same sentence begins to rot. It stops sounding like confidence. It starts sounding like fear. Because if you are truly capable, where is the evidence? That question is not meant to humiliate you. It is meant to wake you up. The world does not owe belief to a man who refuses to produce proof. But the moment he produces proof, the game begins to change. So if these are the 5 traps, which one should you break first? Not the one that hurts the most, the one that gives you the most leverage. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must avoid being despised and hated. Translate that into modern life. A trapped man becomes despised when he becomes predictable. Predictable in his excuses, predictable in his emotional reactions, predictable in his lack of money, predictable in his need for approval, predictable in the way he announces change and then returns to the same pattern. People may not hate him, but they stop taking him seriously. That is worse. Hatred still recognizes your force. Hatred still admits that your existence has weight. But dismissal means something colder. Dismissal means they no longer expect movement from you. They no longer prepare for your rise. They no longer consider your ambition a threat. They no longer adjust their behavior around your standards. They have placed you in a fixed category. He talks, but he does not move. He dreams, but he does not produce. He gets angry, but he returns. He says one day, but one day never becomes evidence. That is the status wound beneath feeling trapped. Men do not only fear failure, they fear becoming non-essential. The man nobody promotes. The man nobody calls. The man nobody waits for. The man nobody fears losing. The man whose absence changes nothing. This is why feeling trapped hurts so deeply. It is not only about circumstances, it is about rank. It is about your position in the invisible hierarchy of life. If you cannot leave, you have low power. If you cannot negotiate, you have low power. If you cannot produce evidence, you have low power. If your body has no energy, you have low power. If your emotions are controlled by people who do not even respect your ambition, you have low power. And power does not return because you feel inspired. Power returns when you build optionality. Optionality is the cold center of freedom. Optionality means you have moves. If one job rejects you, you have a skill. If one room disrespects you, you have another room. If one income source weakens, you have another path. If people doubt you, you have proof. If your mood collapses, you have structure. If your environment drains you, you have boundaries. This is why Machiavelli's line matters when he wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved when one cannot be both." In your life, this does not mean becoming cruel. It does not mean intimidating people. It does not mean walking through the world performing hardness because you secretly feel weak. That is theater. That is not power. The modern form of being feared is consequence. People fear losing the valuable man. They fear ignoring the man with proof. They fear underpaying the man with alternatives. They fear disrespecting the man who can leave. They fear dismissing the man whose results make them look foolish. That is leverage, not noise, not fantasy, not motivational rage, leverage. A man without optionality has to ask for permission even when he hates admitting it. He asks his job for permission to breathe. He asks his family for permission to believe. He asks his environment for permission to change. He asks his emotions for permission to act. He asks the market for permission to survive. A man with optionality does not need to announce independence. His structure proves it. This is where many men misunderstand power. They think power is how loud they can speak, how cold they can act, how many people they can cut off, how much anger they can carry, how intimidating they can look. No. Power is the number of clean moves available to you under pressure. If you only have one source of money, pressure owns you. If you only have one circle, rejection owns you. If you only have one identity, failure owns you. If you only have one emotional supply, approval owns you. If you only have one plan, uncertainty owns you. Optionality does not remove pain. It removes captivity. A man with options can suffer without surrendering his direction. He can be rejected and still move. He can be doubted and still build. He can be tired and still follow structure. He can lose one room and enter another. He can lose one opportunity and create another. He can be misunderstood and not collapse into explanation. That is freedom in its practical form. So stop asking, "Why am I trapped?" Ask a colder question. Which lever gives me movement first? If your energy is broken, your first lever is body, not purpose. Body. For 7 days, sleep at a consistent time. Walk daily. Train lightly. Reduce the inputs poisoning your attention. Do not make it dramatic. Do not turn it into a new identity online. Do not announce a transformation. Stabilize the machine. Your body is the first kingdom because every command must pass through it. Your ambition uses your body. Your focus uses your body. Your courage uses your body. Your patience uses your body. Your ability to recover after rejection uses your body. A man who cannot manage energy will mistake exhaustion for truth. He will say, "I have no future," when what he really has is no sleep. He will say, "I lack discipline," when what he really has is a body trained by chaos. He will say, "I cannot focus," when what he really has is a mind fed by constant noise. Do not ask your brain for empire-level decisions while treating your body like a neglected servant. If your money is broken, your first lever is cash flow, not passion. Cash flow. Track expenses. Cut one drain. Build one income skill. Apply to better opportunities. Sell one useful service. Make money boring before you try to make it glorious. The unsupported man cannot afford romantic financial thinking. He cannot afford to wait for the perfect calling while his bills control his nervous system. He cannot afford to despise ordinary income while having no emergency buffer. He cannot afford to speak about freedom while having no distance from coercion. Cash flow is not the final goal. It is the first wall between your mind and panic. When money is unstable, everything becomes emotional. A small expense becomes a threat. A bad manager becomes a prison guard. A delayed payment becomes humiliation. A family comment becomes proof that maybe you are failing. A friend's success becomes an attack on your identity. Money does not solve every wound, but a lack of money amplifies almost every wound. So build cash flow, build skill, build savings, build usefulness, build alternatives. The man with one source of income is easier to control than the man with two paths. If your environment is broken, your first lever is distance, not drama. Distance. Stop debating with rooms that benefit from your smallness. Stop trying to make stagnant people applaud movement. Stop forcing serious goals into unserious conversations. Stop explaining your standards to people who experience your growth as an accusation. Distance does not always mean disappearing forever. It means reducing exposure to what trains weakness into your nervous system. Some people do not need to hate you to damage you. They only need to normalize a lower version of you long enough. They make laziness look normal. They make cynicism look intelligent. They make ambition look childish. They make discipline look excessive. They make risk look delusional. They make your future feel socially expensive. And because men fear isolation, they negotiate with the room. They laugh at jokes they should reject. They hide progress they should protect. They delay decisions that would create separation. They lower intensity because intensity creates distance. But growth always creates distance from something. The question is not whether distance will happen. The question is whether the distance will be chosen strategically or forced through decay. Find one serious person. Enter one stronger room. Listen to people who think in systems, not excuses. Put yourself near standards that make your current habits difficult to defend. Even if you feel like an outsider, enter anyway. A higher standard is supposed to make the old identity uncomfortable. If your validation is broken, your first lever is silence, not explanation. Silence. Stop announcing the plan. Stop asking for belief. Stop trying to be emotionally understood by people who cannot even understand the battlefield. Every time you explain prematurely, you leak force. You give people a chance to vote on a version of you that has not produced proof yet. You expose the seed before it has roots. You turn your ambition into a public negotiation before it has evidence behind it. This is why many men feel drained after explaining themselves. They think they communicated. In reality, they spent their energy trying to purchase emotional safety from an audience that cannot finance their future. Silence is not weakness. Silence is protection for unfinished power. Build before you explain. Produce before you defend. Move before you ask to be understood. Let proof carry the argument your mouth keeps losing. Because once proof exists, explanation becomes shorter. Once results appear, doubt becomes more expensive. Once your pattern changes, people begin to update without your permission. If your identity is broken, your first lever is proof, not confidence. Proof. One page, one project, one pitch, one workout, one application, one public artifact, one finished thing. Proof is the cure for imaginary power. Many men do not lack confidence, they lack evidence. They are trying to feel certain before doing the thing that would create certainty. They are trying to believe in themselves without giving themselves reasons to believe. That is why action matters. Cochrane describes behavioral activation as using scheduled activities, behavior monitoring, and specific changes in behavior and situations. That matters because action is not just productivity. Action is psychological evidence. Every completed action tells the mind, I still have command. Every kept promise tells the nervous system, this man can be trusted. Every finished thing weakens the old identity that said you only talk. Every visible artifact moves your ambition from imagination into reality. And a man who regains command in small things eventually becomes dangerous in large things. But do not confuse proof with perfection. The first proof is often ugly. The first page may be basic, the first pitch may be weak, the first workout may be embarrassing. The first public post may receive no attention. The first project may expose your incompetence. Good. Exposure is the beginning of reality. A hidden man can protect his fantasy forever. A visible man gets feedback. Feedback hurts, but feedback gives direction. Direction creates improvement. Improvement creates proof. Proof creates leverage. The identity trap dies when the man stops trying to feel exceptional and starts becoming measurable. That is the shift. The trapped man asks, Why is this happening to me? The builder asks, which lever moves first? The trapped man wants rescue. The builder wants optionality. The trapped man explains his pain. The builder converts pain into structure. The trapped man waits for clarity. The builder creates proof until clarity appears. This is how helplessness becomes strategic control. Not by pretending your pressure is fake. Not by shaming yourself into motion. Not by burning everything down. Not by cutting off the world and calling isolation power. You take the vague mass of despair and break it into levers. Energy, money, environment, validation, identity. Then you choose the lever that moves the most doors first. But how do you turn this into a system instead of another emotional spike? You use 30 days, not forever. 30 days. Most men fail because they want transformation to feel dramatic. They want a life-changing moment. They want a surge of certainty. They want a powerful mood. They want the world to shift so they can finally become serious. That is childish. 30 days is not a fantasy of reinvention. It is a diagnostic test. It reveals whether you can still command yourself. Week 1, stabilize the machine. Your body is the first kingdom. Sleep, walk, clean your room, control your morning, control your evening. Remove one addiction-level distraction from your immediate environment. Do not underestimate this. A disordered environment teaches the mind that chaos is normal, and a man who accepts chaos around him will eventually accept chaos inside him. Week 1 is not about becoming impressive. It is about proving that your nervous system does not own the throne. For 7 days, you are not chasing greatness. You are restoring command. Same wake time, same sleep window, some movement daily, cleaner space, less poison entering your attention, one small promise kept every day. That is how self-trust begins returning, not through speeches, through evidence. Week 2, identify the market lever. Ask one question: what skill could make me harder to replace? Not what sounds impressive, not what looks intelligent, not what lets you hide inside learning forever. What can produce value? Sales, copywriting, coding, editing, design, operations, fitness coaching, negotiation, content production, a trade, a professional certification, a service people already pay for. Choose one. The unsupported man does not need endless options. He needs one useful blade sharpened properly. This is where ego becomes dangerous. A man wants the skill that flatters his identity. He wants to be seen as deep, creative, brilliant, rare, visionary. But the market does not pay for the emotional story he has about himself. The market pays for value, delivered, problem solved, pain removed, money made, time saved, attention captured, risk reduced, systems improved. So, choose a skill with evidence of demand. Do not ask, what makes me feel special? Ask, what can make me useful enough that people pay attention? That question is colder. That question produces leverage. Week 3, build visible proof. This is where most men fail. They learn quietly forever. They consume content. They collect strategies. They take notes. They prepare. They keep telling themselves they are almost ready. But the world cannot reward hidden skill. Create proof. A portfolio piece. A case study. A before and after. A sample project. A public post. A short video. A pitch deck. A landing page. A documented result. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are." So stop complaining that people do not know what you are. Show them what you can produce. Visible proof changes the conversation because it moves you from claim to evidence. Before proof, you are asking people to imagine your value. After proof, you are giving them something to judge. That judgment may be harsh. Accept it. A strategist prefers harsh feedback over invisible potential. Invisible potential keeps the ego safe but the life small. Visible proof risks embarrassment but creates movement. And the man who can tolerate public beginner status becomes more dangerous than the man addicted to private fantasies of greatness. Week 4, create an opportunity channel. Proof without distribution is buried power. Send messages. Apply. Publish. Ask. Pitch. Enter rooms. Reconnect strategically. Make offers. Build reputation where your old identity has no control over the judgment. This is where the man who says he wants freedom must prove he can tolerate exposure. Because many men do the work, then hide the work. They build something, then refuse to distribute it. They become skilled, then wait to be discovered. They create value, then feel ashamed to present it. They say they hate being invisible, but they avoid visibility because visibility invites rejection. This is a contradiction. You cannot demand recognition while hiding the evidence. Distribution is not begging. Distribution is how value enters the world. Send the message. Publish the artifact. Make the offer. Enter the room. Apply for the role. Ask for the conversation. Put proof where opportunity can find it. Then review coldly. What worked? What failed? What created energy? What created money? What created respect? What created respect? What created nothing? A strategist does not worship effort. He studies results. This is where Machiavelli becomes useful again. He wrote that success belongs to the man whose actions fit the times, and failure comes when circumstances change, but the man does not change his conduct. That is the story of most trapped men. Life changes. Markets change. Relationships change. Their bodies change. Their responsibilities change. Their costs change. Their competition changes. But their strategy stays the same. They keep using the same personality, the same excuses, the same skill level, the same circle, the same emotional reactions, the same hope that someone will eventually notice their potential, and then they call the result bad luck. No, sometimes bad luck is real. But sometimes bad luck is what a man calls the consequence of refusing to adapt. If the market changed and you did not build skill, that is not only bad luck. If your body changed and you did not change your habits, that is not only bad luck. If your environment kept weakening you and you kept returning for approval, that is not only bad luck. If your proof stayed invisible because you feared judgment, that is not only bad luck, it is failed adaptation. A man who wants power must stop treating adaptation like betrayal. Changing your conduct is not fake. It is intelligence. It is survival. It is strategy. You are not a captive unless you agree to remain one. You may be under pressure. You may be underpaid. You may be unsupported. You may be misunderstood by family, doubted by friends, ignored by society, and exhausted from carrying ambition alone. But none of that proves you are finished. It proves you cannot afford to remain vague. The trapped man asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The builder asks, "What lever moves first?" The trapped man wants rescue. The builder wants optionality. The trapped man explains his pain. The builder converts pain into structure. The trapped man waits for clarity. The builder creates proof until clarity appears. That is the identity shift. From captive to builder. From helplessness to control. From emotional paralysis to strategic movement. From invisible effort to visible evidence. From survival to leverage. The brutal truth about feeling trapped in life is this: you do not need every door to open. You need one lever strong enough to move the first door, then the next, then the next. Do not romanticize the cage. Do not burn your life down in panic. Do not keep explaining your ambition to people who benefit from your hesitation. Name the lock. Choose the lever. Build proof. Create optionality. And let the world meet the version of you that no longer asks to be believed. But understand this. Leverage has an order. Build the wrong lever first, and you can waste another year looking disciplined while staying trapped. A man can train hard while still having no money. He can earn more while still needing approval. He can leave one weak room and carry the same identity into the next. He can build skill and still stay invisible because he refuses to distribute proof. So do not turn this into another motivational spike. Diagnose the lock. Choose the first lever. Move for 30 days. If your energy is broken, command the body. If your money is broken, build cash flow. If your environment is broken, create distance. If your validation is broken, practice silence. If your identity is broken, create proof. Do not ask life to open every door. Build the leverage that makes one door enough. And if this hit the part of you that is tired of surviving without movement, comment one word. Leverage. Not because it sounds powerful, because you are done confusing survival with freedom.